Hey, have you ever thought about getting started in real estate investing and you do not know where to begin? Well, in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be interviewing one of my clients who started out in real estate investing probably over about 18 years ago. And when I met him 13 years ago, he was just getting started, had a few properties, and he's since blown it up. So today, what you're going to learn is how you, as a new real estate investor, or maybe you've been investing for a while, you can take your real estate investing to the next level. So with that, I want to welcome on Winston Templet. As I stated, he became a client back in 2013, and we sat down with each other, and I remember this. Winston was attending an event where I was speaking. It was a real estate investor conference where he'd signed up to learn how we could take his investing to the next level. And, I truly believe that education can help a lot of people when it comes to real estate investing. And I've seen what it's done for him. But at that time, he had a few properties. He was finding success in real estate, and he had a very successful HVAC business where he worked for restaurant companies from the curb all the way to building the property, all the way up. And he was doing well, but he realized, hey, the path to prosperity is through building real estate, creating a passive stream of income. And right before the show, we were just talking about the fact that I was heading off to Florence, and he was saying the exact same thing, that he's got all this great wealth that he's created. The money's coming in. It's now time for him to start vacationing. But before we let him go off and start vacationing, we're going to start asking him some questions about his journey. Winston, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I appreciate the opportunity to come on your show and share my experience and my story. And if I can help some people, that is the whole goal with what we do.
Yeah, the thing right off the bat is when I look at you and I see your background, you've got all those entities that I've created for you. And I remember when you first started, there were just a few of them on the shelf, and now look where we're at today. And
Yep.
I know there's more, but they're not up there on the shelf. What is that doing for your privacy?
Uh, I like it. I mean, it gives me a lot of anonymity. We got stuff going through a company we got out of Nevada, and it shelters me. I mean, it shelters me so people don't know exactly what I own. I mean, some people know a little bit about what I own that I know, but if you don't know me, you don't have any idea what I own. So yeah, I like it.
Great. Well, hey, let's start talking about real estate and development and how you got started. So why don't you tell the audience, the people that are watching this video now, what inspired you to get started in real estate investing?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I did not want to get involved in real estate investing. I had a successful maintenance company. I was servicing about 700 restaurants in Nashville. We had a crew of 70 guys working for us, and we just worked from can to can't. And what got me involved in real estate was I had a friend of mine who he wasn't working out in the company, so he left and started as a real estate agent. And he found a trailer park he wanted me to buy. And I said, man, I'm not buying no trailer park. He said, no, man, it's synergy. And I'm like, I don't even know what that word means. So I had to look it up on the dictionary in the dictionary. And I'm like, okay, I got it. And but it took me like 2 years to buy that trailer park because I did not want to do it. It stayed on the market for a couple of years, and finally I bought it. And I mean, right out of the gate, I think I gave like $195,000 for it. And it was bringing in $14,000 a month income.
Wow.
And that was my first experience in real estate. And once I started realizing, man, this money comes in every single month. I don't do anything hardly at the trailer park at all, and it still comes in. So then I started buying single family homes, and I started buying some office space, and then I started buying some warehouse space, and it just continued to grow from there. But it was really an accident. It was an accident I got involved in real estate.
Yeah, and I've watched you change over the years as far as your real estate investing has gone, and now you're doing build ups, from ground up construction. So why don't you talk about a little bit about what you're currently doing in real estate investing? Because everyone wants to know, here it is, 2025, in this market, where do you see investing going for you?
I look at investing as very fluid. So we got to move as it moves. Whenever we see appreciation on the horizon, I invest for that appreciation. When it's down low, I'm going cash flow at all times. Obviously, I don't want properties that don't cash flow. But I got involved. I couldn't find anything that I could buy back in 2016 that would cash flow. I mean, everything was the numbers did not work. So then I bought a piece of property, a little trashy piece of property. It was the last lot in the neighborhood. I paid $6,000 for it. And I built a house on that property to see what it would look like if I just built the house. I didn't have any goals. I just didn't want to lose any money. I said, if I can just build it and get the experience, I'll see what it does. And I built that house for about 125,000 with the land included, and I sold it for 240. And that was my very first build. And from there, I started looking at it. I said, wait a second, I can buy land and I can build a house cheaper than I can buy a house. And then I got about 10 years before I really have to worry about anything. So I would take that period of time. And that has been mainly what I've done since 2016. Rather than buying somebody else's property, I go out and I build it. And then I discovered through a land development class that I did that I could go in and I could buy one piece of land and I can invest 6 months of my time and I might could turn that one piece of land into 5 pieces of land. Now, where I bought a piece of land for $100,000 and now I can put 5 different builds on it. And I got one down the road. I've got $100,000 in 3 lots. I combined everything and made 5 lots out of it. I built 4 houses and 5 duplexes. So now on that piece of property, I have 10 units on it. I'm sorry, 10 units on the duplexes and then another 4. So I got 14 total units on it. And my whole land development cost is probably under $110,000 with engineering fees and everything. So I didn't have a ton of money in it. And the builds, each one of the houses, when I built them, I was able to pull 100% of my equity out of it. So I didn't have any money in it. So it is completely an infinite return. And then I built the duplexes, and the duplexes cost me about about 1.2 million to build them. And as soon as I built them, I pulled like 1.6 million out of it. I put the 400,000 in my pocket, and I don't have any money invested in all those properties, and I still make about $10,000 a month positive cash flow on it. And that is just the process that we do, and we rinse and repeat. I bought a piece of land that I could develop, and I went and did the engineering on it. I paid $100,000 for this piece of land, and I put about $200,000 in engineering fees. So I got about 300,000 in it. I did an appraisal on it for 1.3 million is what it appraised for. And I actually have people looking at wanting to buy it right now. So we're talking about maybe selling that piece of land rather than doing the new construction myself. So there's just tons of opportunity in it, and education is king, right?
It is. And you know what you've mentioned here, and this is why I wanted to get you on to my channel, is because in 2025, a lot of people, or the people that I follow, have been saying over and over again, and you align with this, that buying raw land, they think, is what investors should be doing in 2025, and doing what you described. That, as you stated, real estate right now, acquiring somebody else's property, it just, the numbers don't work. So finding that land and turning it into something is really important. So that brings me to this question. How do you find the right location to build a house?
So most of what I find, I drive around, I see something that's grown up, and I'll just stop and find out who, if it's at somebody's house, I may find out who lives next door to it and find out if they got a phone number for the people and ask them. But typically, I don't find it on MLS. I don't know that I have any land that I found on MLS. I think everything I find is me driving up and me finding out through the Sumner County. I do a lot of investing in Sumner County, Tennessee. I'll go to their website and find out who owns that piece of land. And I'll see if I can find them on Facebook. If I can, I will send them a message and ask them if they'd be interested in selling it. If I know where they live, I may stop by their house and just knock on a door and just talk to somebody, because I don't know how you are. I get 100 calls a month, people I want to buy this piece of property, and it's all just a scam garbage. So it just ticks me off. So I don't want to do that to people. So if I knock on somebody's door and let them know what I'm looking for, that's fine. I got a piece of land I just bought a few months back, and it's 5 acres, but I can probably put somewhere between 10 and 20 duplexes on it. And I bought the land for $50,000, but I spent 4 years talking to this guy, trying to get him to sell me the piece of land. And we would meet probably once a quarter. He'd call me up and he'd say, "Hey, Winston, can you come over and talk to me?" I go talk to him, and we never made the deal, but I always went and talked to him. I always went and talked to him. I always went and talked to him. And then one day he called me up and he said, "Hey man, I'm needing some help. Do you still want that piece of land?" I said, "Yeah." And I bought that piece of land. And we will do the land development on that, and it will turn out to be a great thing. Now, the funny thing about that piece of land is I bought it for 50,000, and I told him, I said, for 50,000, what I'm willing to pay you is $25,000 per door for the land. And right now, I can put, with the zoning that's there, I can put 1 duplex on it, and I'm willing to give you the 50,000 for the one. I said, but what I will do with you is I'll make a deal with you if I can put 5 duplexes on it. After I put the first 4 doors on it, so the first 4 units, two duplexes, I will start giving you $12,500 for each one after that, even though I already own the land. And that is exactly what I will do whenever I get prepared to do that deal. I will pay that man as much as I can afford to pay him, because I don't want to cheat him out of money. And I think that's the biggest thing, that everybody feels like they get scammed because everybody's trying to lowball everything. I'm not wanting to lowball everything. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get my land costs, no more than 8 to 10% for raw land. And then I can go up to about no more than about 22, 23% if it takes the land into consideration, it takes the engineering fees into consideration, the not a concrete driveway, but a driveway and underground utilities. If I can get all of that, and I'm in it at 20% of the finished value of the home, the numbers will work in the end. If I can do that, then that's kind of how I'm judging my land. But my land comes to me by me going out there and just knocking on doors and talking to people.
All right.
And once
So
people know who you are, they're going to call you, right? Once the community knows who you are, if they got
yes,
a piece of land, they call you.
you just dropped so much information there.
Sorry.
Whoever's watching this right now is going to have to go back and replay that one, minute and a half, 2 minutes of information that you dispensed. I'm going to go back over it. But before I do that, what I heard, and I think it's really important for all the people who are watching this right now, is how you approach potential sellers, right? You're creating a relationship, keeping top of mind with them. And then you're using creative financing, because you hear a lot of people talk about creative financing in the terms of, oh, buy on terms. So maybe you go and you approach the landowner and you say, listen, I'm going to buy this and then I'll pay you out over time. Or they just want to tie up the property. But what you're doing is you're essentially making them a partner in your success. And so if you make money, they make money. And I like that strategy because it's something different that other people aren't doing. So my hat off to you on that. But what you stated there, now I want to go into is, zoning laws, building codes. So you have to be researching this to some extent or have an idea at that land you want to buy, how that's going to impact your development. Because if you can only invest 20% of your total cost, right? You said build cost can only go towards the entitlement process of the property itself. What type of research are you doing on the front end before you make that offer?
So it's not the build cost, it's the actual finished value of the home. Okay. So I'm looking
Okay.
at the finished value of the home, because $100. So any community I'm going into, I'm going to be aware of what's going on around me and see what's there. I'm going to go into the city and I'm going to talk to the city manager. I'm going to talk to planning and zoning. I'm going to talk to whoever can tell me, hey, I got this piece of land. It's just a rural residential and I would like to put a duplex on it. Can I put a duplex on it? And they're gonna, I love the government. The government is the land of no. So they're gonna tell you no to no matter what your question is, unless you ask your question properly. So I would go in and I would ask, can I put a duplex there? And if they say no, I would say, okay, can you tell me what I need to do to be able to put a duplex there? Because I don't care what piece of land you got, you can always go try a different method if they tell you no. So they may tell me, well, you got to get planning and zoning involved with it. They have to sign off on it. Then the city council has to sign off on it. And if they told me that, then I would go talk to the person over the planning and zoning. I would talk to them and say, what is your appetite as far as this is concerned? Would you allow me to put 2 duplexes here or 1 duplex here? Would you allow me? And they're going to tell you yes or no. And if that person that's in planning and zoning tells me no, there's no way that's going to get through, then I'm probably going to stop. I'm not going to go fight that beat a dead horse on that, because most of the time you're not going to win. And but if he says, he said, I really don't have a problem with it, but I'd like to see a little bit more about what you got in mind. Then I may hand sketch something up, or I may get my engineer to hand sketch something up, and we would go from there. I mean, I'm not going to do anything without an answer. I want to know that what I'm going into is going to be successful. I'm not going to go spend money to invest. I mean, I told you on the apartment complex, I got 200,000 in engineering fees. Well, before I spent any of that money, we did a hand sketch of that development. We got the city council's opinion on it, and they said they would approve it. We got planning and zoning, they said they would approve it. Then we had the engineer do the drawings, and once they approved the drawings and the site work, then I got an architectural engineer involved. They came and he did everything vertical. So we did it all, but I did it in a way, I knew what I was doing first, then I got it rezoned, and then I took it to the next level. And it isn't difficult. Everybody is so afraid to talk to these people with the cities. They're not hard to talk to. They're real easy to talk to, but you do need to ask the right questions.
Yeah. So that's what I want to ask you. So what are some of the key considerations if you're going to go in there and talk to somebody at the city or the county, wherever you're doing this type of project, or considering doing it, what are some of those first key questions they said should ask before they go out and approach the landowner, just to make sure that that property can accommodate what they're looking to do? What would you say?
So just most cities nowadays have where you can go on their website and you can find out what the property is zoned for. And I would look at that and then I would look around that property and see if there's any property that's touching. Like I got a piece of land that it's just rural residential, but it's also touching a piece of property that's commercial. So if it's touching that property, there's a good chance that I can rezone that property to commercial. And once I saw that that would be once I see that that's an easy transition, then I would start talking to somebody else. Now, if it wasn't doing it, and let's say commercial was 2 miles down the road, then you're going to get into a spot zoning situation. Now that may and may not work. That's whenever you're going to talk to the city council or the planning and zoning people or the city manager. And you say, hey, I know there's no commercial right there, but it's a great location. You explain it to them. And that really can go a couple of different ways. You may have a city manager that says it's spot zoning, we're not doing it. And then you may have somebody else that says, well, that would be a great fit for that area because I don't see anything else that would work on that particular lot. And I got another piece of property that it is really a crappy piece of property. I bought it for $50,000 and it goes off the road about 60 feet and then it goes almost a 45-degree angle up a hill after that part. And it's been in our city. It was all grown up. It just looked like trash. And I talked to the city about it and I said, what can I put there? And they said, well, you can put something commercial there. So I went and I bought it. And then after I bought it, I went back to the city. I said, what about if I put some townhomes there? It wasn't zoned for townhomes, but that was another piece of property that touched a residential piece of property that it is permitted in that if I can get approval for it. So then we took that to planning and zoning and we just did it off of a sketch drawing and we just talked to them and planning and zoning liked the idea. They said they would support it. I went to the city council and talked to them and they said they would support it. And then we started getting things drawn up from an engineer and we just took it from that level. But the question is, if it's not zoned for that, tell me how I can get it rezoned. And they're going to tell you if it's not going to happen, they're going to say very basically, it's not going to happen. I want to know, is there city sewer? Is there city water? Sewer is important, especially if you're wanting to step up the multifamily in any way, duplexes and stuff, because I got one piece of land that I have that it has a 2-bedroom house on it it was in rough shape. So I tore it down. The city said I could put or the county, it's in the county. They said I could put another 2-bedroom house in there. That would be fine. So I tore it down and then I wanted to put a 3-bedroom house in. And I called up the soil scientist, environmental in that county. And they said, well, you're going to have to hire somebody else to come in. It's got to be re-perked to see if it would happen. So I called the guy up on the phone and the guy said, I don't think that's going to work. He said, it doesn't like the square footage is right on that piece of land. He said, I don't think it's going to work. I said, well, is there a chance? He said, there's a chance. I said, how much will you charge me to come look at it? And he said for $250, he would come do a visual inspection of the land. So that gives me that $250 is worth my money because now him and I are going to have a face-to-face on that piece of land because I'm going to meet him there. And he got there and we walked that piece of land for 15 minutes or so. And at the end, he said, nope. He said, there's no way you're going to get the square footage that you need. You don't have the fall that you need on the property. He said, it's not going to work. You can put a 2-bedroom on. He said, I wouldn't give you permission to put a 2-bedroom on it, but because there was a 2-bedroom here, we can still put a 2-bedroom on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a 2-bedroom on it with an office. And it's, so it's going to be the same 3-bedroom house I was going to build, but the 3rd bedroom is going to be an office instead of a bedroom.
Closet.
Yeah. So it's just what it is. And that makes it perfectly legal. But I wanted to do it as a 3-bedroom house rather than a 2-bedroom house because I'm not ever going to sell it probably. But if I ever wanted to sell it, it would sell better as a 3-bedroom than a 2-bedroom.
Okay. So then what type of, or would you say key costs that an investor, someone that's looking to do this, you need to be aware of? If you're to say, hey, these are the 3 most expensive things that can blow a project up, and you have to understand that before you go into this, what would you recommend?
I think engineering is going to be expensive. You need to understand your engineering fees if you're going to change something. And the bigger the project, the more they're going to cost. If I was going to come into just a simple rezone from one lot to turn that one lot into 2 lots, that's not too bad. I get that for $5,000, $6,000, $10,000, depending on where you live. Right here, I can get it for about $5,000, have everything drawn up, and I can do all of that work myself once my engineer does their part. I can bring up the plan and zoning and separate it. So it's not a big deal. One thing you can do also, though, if you got a piece of land in the area allows you to do 1 acre lots and you're buying 5 acres, you don't have to really have permission to do that. It's what it is. So you can just have an engineer do it. You don't have to go through planning and zoning or anybody else to approve it. But engineering is an expensive cost, and you need to be careful with that. In the city I live in right now, they just went from no sprinkler systems at all in residential to you got to have sprinkler systems in a 400 square foot house. Sprinkler systems are expensive when you got to put them in. They're not over the top expensive, but I just built a duplex, and I think to put the sprinkler system in cost me about $4,000. But to do what the water company required me to do to put that sprinkler system in cost me about another $8,000.
Wow.
So I had about $12,000 in total putting the sprinkler system in the house. And that made my numbers not work really well. I mean, they still work. I can still do an infinite return on it, but it is not what I was looking for. I was looking for a lot better than that. But it is what it is. And I already had the land, so I wasn't going to sell the land. I was just going to build the house. And if I had to take a little bit less profit off of it, I just took the profit off of it. And it's a duplex, so I didn't sell it. I'm still holding it.
What about
So I
the
don't.
energy saving costs? Do you have that problem down there? Because I know up here in Washington State, the contractors that I've been talking to developers, that's one thing that's been blowing up their budgets is that they get involved in these projects, but now they have these new green energy requirements that have been placed upon them. And many times the county or the city inspectors, they don't even know how to apply them, but it increases all their costs for the materials.
The cities have no idea most of the time. Right here, they changed us from a category 2 to a category 3, which required us to come in, and we had to do blower door tests on the houses where when you build a house, they put a blower door that sucks air out of the house. And what they do with an infrared camera is they come in and they check everything, and they want to see what kind of leakage you got. And if you go over a certain percentage, it doesn't work.
Mhm.
And you talk about rough. It is rough to make that house so airtight, and they make the houses so airtight. And then you got to come into your bathrooms and you got to put a humidistat in there that turns your vent fan on to circulate air because the humidity gets to be too low. So they are too high because your house doesn't breathe anymore. So what they do is they take that house and they make that house where it's able to grow a lot more mold, and you really got to be careful in those houses. So I think, in my opinion, I think that we cut our own throats with a lot of this energy stuff. Now, I don't live in a real cold climate. It might be different further up north, but where we are, it's just not that bad to need that. So they did that for 1 year. I built 4 houses during that 1 year, and I probably would have not built any more in this area with that on it. But they came in and so many contractors complained about it. They took it down to the next category. I think they took it down to a category back to a 2, and we didn't have to worry about it any longer to do that. But when they come in and implement all this stuff, and it really is expensive. If you're in a state that is really green and they're really wanting everything to be, airtight and all stuff, they do it, but it affects everything. You get sick in your house. One person gets sick in your house. Everybody gets sick in your house because your house doesn't breathe at all.
Correct.
And that's my opinion. That's just my opinion. I'm not an environmentalist.
Well, just walk into a plastic box with someone that's sick and stay there for 24 hours and see if you come back out sick. Right?
Yeah. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Crazy. Common sense doesn't play anymore. So
construction costs has come down a lot, though. We're not dealing as much with the construction costs anymore. But that was really, really, really bad 2 years ago. 21. Yeah. Oh my goodness, it cost you so much to build a house. It just did not make any sense anymore.
Well, you're leading me right into my next question, because when I'm listening to all this, if I wanted to go out there and find a piece of land, and I know what that cost is going to be, what about the financing side of this? If you're not financing it yourself with cash, where are you going to get financing, or where would you recommend someone do that?
So I have never done a construction loan. Mm-hmm. And for years and years and years, I self-funded everything. And then I sold my company in 2019. And now since 2019, the only income I get is what I make off of my real estate. So I don't get a paycheck anywhere else. I get paid for my real estate. So as I was turning that, what I would do is I would borrow money. Once I spent the money I had on the house on real estate, on my business on real estate, then what I did was I took And instead of getting a construction loan, because I personally do not want to deal with a construction loan, because I don't want to deal with the codes people. I don't want to deal with somebody coming in and then I can't pay my contractors because the bank hasn't done their inspection yet and they won't release the funds for me to pay my contractors. So what I have done on anything I've built that I needed money is I will go do a cash out refi on another. I'm only leveraged on my portfolio about 23%. So I'm not highly leveraged at all. So I will go pull equity out of one house to build the other house. And then I build the house with all cash. So that is the main way that I do it. I have only ever done one construction loan, and that was in 2011 that I did a construction loan. And that was a personal residence. And it was just such a pain in the behind. And I've just tried to stay away from it. So I know that I've talked to my bank about construction loans and I don't have a problem with them, but I problem getting one. I just haven't done it because I just rather pull it out of something else.
Yeah. So for a lot of people who may be getting started, they have a personal residence, a home equity loan would be an option for them in order to
Yeah.
help get this going. So
Mhm.
yeah, and I always tell people, find a community bank, work with a community lender. They oftentimes are going to be easier to work with and putting deals together for you, especially on the construction side, than going down to your big box bank like a Wells Fargo or Chase, because you're just a number to them and not a person. So with that
And
being said, yeah,
I deal with 4 separate banks. Every
mhm,
bank I deal with is a community bank. And I
yeah,
can tell you that the more you deal with the same bank, the better your relationship gets, the better your relationship gets. I mean, any of those banks, I could call them right now and their people would come to my office and sit and talk with me. I don't have to drive to their office. They'll come to me. And I love that type of relationship. And I was one time, I was doing a job in Nevada at a hospital in Nevada. And I was there for about 2 months and I needed a couple $100,000. And I called my banker and he said, I'll put the money in your bank today. Now, I don't even know how that works, but he put the money in my account that day. And it was 2 weeks before I got back to Nashville to be able to pull the money out of something else and move it over there to pay him off. But those relationships are huge. And I'm not saying everybody's going to get that treatment, but I'm saying that relationship expands the more you deal with them and the more they trust you and the more they know who you are and what you are. It's a
yeah,
big deal.
that's a great point. So when you're out there and you're running these projects, you're using subs or you're serving as a general?
I am a general contractor. So I'm a licensed general contractor, mechanical contractor, electrical contractor. So I can do anything up myself and pull permits, but I don't. I'm when I sold my company, I said I don't want employees anymore. I don't want to deal with employees. And you have 500, so you probably understand that a little bit, just a little bit. But I didn't want. I just didn't want the employees. So I will pull the permits, and they will. I will hire. I typically hire a general contractor that I know around here that will do. He will even manage the subcontractors for me. I don't even manage them. And I will just go by the job once every couple of weeks and look at it. And it's not a big deal. Now he will also pull the permits for me. So that is another relationship based deal. I have a couple of different general contractors that I have a real good relationship with them. They will come in for 10%, 15% of the total cost. They'll manage the whole project. I don't have to show up on a job. And that means a lot to me. And I know when I look at it and they have people they have dealt with for 20 years, I can go out and build the same house that they can build. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hire people that I don't have relationships with. So they're not going to cut the pricing with me that they would cut it for him. So he will do it. And even though I give him 15% to manage the job, I think I'm coming out at about the same amount of money and he builds a great house and I never have any issues. And we just had a house that we sold last year. And when we sold the house, we got a 1 year inspection coming up that we got to warranty the house for 1 year. So any nail pops or anything that they got that's wrong, we got to fix. And I called him up. I said, can you meet me over there? He said, yeah. So he met me over there. We did a walkthrough. We met with the owner and he had like 5 little bitty things that needed be done. And Tim just went in there and fixed it, fixed it all and it's over. It's done. And it really is not as difficult as everybody wants to make it. You don't have, I mean, you got to hire the right people for sure. You got to hire do not go out there thinking that this is a get rich quick thing. It's not. Like there's a lot of gurus out there trying to sell it as a get rich quick. It doesn't get rich quick. You get rich real slow. But if you're slow and steady, you can definitely do it. But you always want to make sure you're hiring the right people. Don't go for the cheapest guy in the room. Find out and get recommendations on it. Do some research on anybody you're dealing with, and it's extremely important. It's vital that you hire the right people. The
Yeah,
wrong
that's
contractor will
what
destroy you.
amazes me. I've talked to a lot of real estate investors in my career, and they lament about the bad contractor that they hired and they lost money with them. And when I start asking them questions such as, did you get some referrals? Did you follow up on those people that he'd done work for in the past and seeing how recent that was? And did you ask him for a list of 10 or 12 people and then you selected a few of those? Because, if you just ask for one or two referrals, they're just going to give you the best people and they're going to leave
Mhm.
off. I always think that's important. Is there anything else that you would say in selecting a contractor, that maybe it's not obvious to the investor about, where you can find a contractor maybe screwed up or researching them?
So if I'm going to hire a foundation guy
Mm-hmm.
and he's going to do my foundation, pour the concrete and everything for me, and he needs money after he digs the foundation, I'm not using it. I want somebody, I'm going to pay you when you do your job. If I'm a hired drywall guy and that drywall is going to take him a week to get it done and he needs a draw halfway through the week, I'm not going to use that guy. I'm going to pay you when that's done. Now, if I'm hiring somebody like the electrician, I will pay the electrician when the electrician does his rough in, but I will not pay him any more than that rough in. And then when he comes in and gets the final done, then I will pay him for the final. And I have done some videos on that myself. And oh my word, the hate that I get from contractors saying we want money up front. If you give money to somebody up front, you're a fool, because I can't tell you how many people I know that they give money up front and they never come back. They never get the job done. And if you're using somebody that's got 100 employees, you're probably going to pay a lot of money. You're somebody's paying their overhead, and you're guess who it is? It's you. And so I'm very cautious about that. I like to use smaller contractors, but I want a reputable contractor. And I want a contractor that says, look, I'm going to do the job. When I pass my inspection, and when the electrician passes his rough in inspection, I'm going to pay him for the rough in. When he passes his final, I'm going to pay him for the final. When the guy gets finished, I'm going to look at it and I'm going to pay him for the drywall. And that's just across the board. I would caution anybody that comes in and they're using a contractor that wants money up front. If he can't afford I'm going to buy the drywall on my accounts, so I don't ask them to come in and buy the drywall. So I will pay for the drywall and I will have the drywall delivered. They just got to carry their labor. That's all they got to carry.
Yeah, that's it. That's a great point. And a lot of the people that I've dealt with that have got into disputes with contractors, that's typically what happens. They give them the money up front before the work's been completed. And as you stated, they go and finish up the other job that they still haven't finished up and they needed your money to do it. And that just starts snowballing. And before you know it, they just go radio silent on you. So other
Didn't
than
that a few years ago kill China?
what's that?
Wasn't that a big deal? What was that? Enron? What was that in China? The one in China just a couple of years ago, because they
Oh
were
yeah.
borrowing from project to project. Everybody was prepaying for the house, and now all these people, I think it was hundreds of thousands of people, they
They
gave
didn't
them
get their
all the money
condos.
up
Yeah.
front. No, they
Yeah.
didn't get it. And framers are the worst, because your framing package may cost you $30,000. And I agree, they can't front that money for the $30,000. So they need to get paid for it. But I'm going to go to wherever you're buying your lumber from, and I'm going to pay those people. I'm not going to give you a check for $30,000.
Yeah, well, I used to frame when I was in college, and the guy I worked for, yeah, he was hand to mouth. And if I didn't get paid the day I was supposed to get paid, I wasn't going to be showing back up because I know what was going to happen. I'd seen it happen to other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I
So
agree.
besides that, are there any other mistakes the first time investor you think typically makes if they're going down this road to build that they're really key that they need to be aware of?
I think good people,
Mhm.
I'm around a lot of real estate people, and I meet very few real estate people that are not good people. I mean, we are a good band of people. And most of us, because we are trustworthy, we look at everybody else as that person is trustworthy too. And I see that get so many different people in trouble. You can't just trust what everybody says. I mean, you need to have a great written contract. And I would have my contracts. The contracts I have are written by my attorney. So I don't write up my own contracts. I have my attorney write everything up, and I cover all my bases. I mean, I just don't go out there and wing it. And I think that is one of the biggest problems, that people go out there and they wing it. People go out there and I got a family member that had somebody come in and he had another family member go over and do some work on his house, a remodel of his house while he was living in a different state. And what happened was he retired and the house was supposed to be done when he retired, and he done paid all this money. And when he went to his house, the family member never went and checked what the guy did. And the guy didn't do anything that he was supposed to do. And then come to find out the guy's hooked on drugs. He's got nothing, he's got no money. And then, you're just in trouble. You're just in trouble at that point because you're not getting your money back ever. It's never coming back. And that is a huge concern. Don't pay them, don't give them money once, hey, I finished the framing, I need to get paid for it. Go look at the framing or have a framing inspection done on the house by the state or the city and make sure that it actually passes everything that you need to pass, because once you pay them, they may not come back.
And that's, I've told investors before that I've discussed this with that are just getting started in their own development. If they aren't using money with, a bank that they're going to be pulling draws from, that's going to be handling some of that for them to make sure the work's progressing before the draws are being released, then at least hire a project manager. And the pushback I get is, oh, that's going to take more money off the deal. Yeah, but you're going to learn so much from using that project manager the first few times that you're not going to make those mistakes that can be catastrophic, like you just brought up, and then you lose everything. So, making that initial investment, I think, in legal, like you talked about with your contracts, I would even say getting your right business entity set up. So if something happens on the property, like I had a client one time, he was a doctor, a retired physician, and first house he was doing, guy was killed he was using a backhoe, swung the bucket, didn't see the individual there and clipped him. And that was it. And next thing you know, he's filing for bankruptcy and he lost everything because the property was in his own name. And so those are things that just, they happen in life. And we need to make sure that you're protecting your investment. So in today's market, you've got to, for investors, is there anything you'd like to say, as we wrap this up to them about getting started? And then we'll mention about your website, your YouTube channel, because that's awesome. I mean, you just cut right to the chase and you help people along here. But what would you want to say to them that are watching this right now and they're thinking about doing this?
Well, one thing that you enlightened just now, whenever you're talking about carrying costs, a lot of people need to take that carrying cost into consideration on whatever they do. So if you're going to do a HELOC, then you really don't have the carrying costs like you would if you go and do like I said, I just go do a refi on another house and get all the money at one time. I have to figure in my numbers the carrying cost of that money for 6 months before I get it built and rented, because I'm going to lose all of that money. So I throw that money into my building costs and I say, okay, do the numbers work when I throw all this in the building costs? So that's one thing I want to make sure, because I didn't hit on that a second ago, but we definitely need to cover that. When you and I first met, I didn't have a single entity. Every single thing I owned was in my personal name. And I remember us sitting down and you saying, hold up, this is not going to work. We got to get it fixed. And we started setting up and we might've started out with 8 entities, something like that. I don't remember how many we started with, but it got it out of my name. It got me anonymity going through Nevada. And then everything I've done since then, I reach out to you to make sure that it's right. So that was definitely a big hole in my bucket at that particular point in time, because I had a business with 70 employees that every time I turned around, I got sued. They get in a car wreck. I mean, I had one of my guys rear-ended a paraplegic. The paraplegic sued me for the quality of their life. And because I ruined their quality of life. But that's, that's life. And life is going to happen. So you need to protect yourself from that. So setting up the proper entities, getting all that in line is the most important thing you can do from every avenue. I mean, you got to do it from that avenue. If you're married, cover your behind on anything. If you're putting your money into it, just cover it.
Absolutely.
Because your whole family's at stake, right? Your whole family's at stake.
So I want them to go to your channel. What's the name of your channel? And I'll put the link down below as well.
So the name of the channel is Real Estate Templet.
Okay.
And we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, but that's under The Real Estate Templet. They have a "the" in front of that. I don't know why, but that's what it is. And basically we just do simplistic stuff. If I'm building a house and I'm in the middle of some stuff right now, so I haven't built anything in the last 8 months. But when I'm building houses, I will do the production. I will do some type of a video on that house on a weekly basis on what we've gotten done this week. And I will talk about stuff. We let people send us some messages of what they want to see. And we just try and educate somebody that has no experience whatsoever. And we want to bring you to a level that you would have the comfort to be able to go out there and start construction of a house or start a land development deal or start any of that you want to do, whether you want to do a rehab or new, it doesn't matter. We can help you through it. And we're just trying to, from just real life experience. I'm not sugarcoating anybody anything. I'm not trying to tell you go get rich quick, because it's not going to happen. I'm telling you, it's going to be a slow process. And I'm just transparent. If I screw up, I just say, this is what I did. This is what happened. This is the repercussions of that. And we continue like that. So it's a fun channel to do, because it's just, my sense of humor is a little bit out there sometimes, and I get a lot of comments on it.
Yeah, it's a great channel. I mean, you give so many nuggets, and for someone who is getting started or you've been investing for a while, I would highly encourage you to check out his channel. I subscribe to it, I follow it, and there's just a lot of, like I said, a lot of information there. And so I appreciate the fact you do this, because you don't know what you don't know. And what you're educating people on is, hey, I came up with this issue right here, and if you're involved in this situation, this is how you handle it. So I really appreciate that.
So everybody goes out there, or a lot of people go out there and they think, well, I don't know enough to do this. I don't know enough to do that yet. And we were talking earlier, I didn't learn to read until I was 30 years old, but I started my first company when I was 24. I didn't know a single thing about real estate when I got into real estate, but you just got to have the confidence that, you know what, somebody else can do this, so therefore I can do this also. And that really is it's a mindset. Entrepreneurs have a mindset of success, a mindset that, it doesn't matter. I don't really care what rocks you throw at me. I'm going to find a way to catch them and do something, build a wall with it or whatever. But it's not easy, but it's not hard. But you just really do have to work. It does take a lot of work.
Yeah, it does. Well, hey, with that, thanks for coming on. We took a lot of time up here for this, but I think people are going to get a lot if they stuck through the end here of information. So I appreciate that, and all the best.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. Appreciate you.
Talk soon.
Yes, bye.